Hey guys, it's your girl Sibrena Stowe-Geraldino. Welcome to HonesTea On Demand. Today, I got my good girlfriend on. As promised, I'm always trying to bring you some fly ass people that you can get to know and learn from. And part of my plight is to share stories that will inspire and educate you, of course. And we're only doing that through icons. So today, I would like to welcome my good girlfriend, Andrena Hale, executive producer from Cake and Candy. Hey, Andrena.
Hey,
Thank you so much for coming.
thanks for inviting me.
So,
Hopefully, I'll have something good to say.
girl, you always got something good to say. That's not even a given. I am just glad to have you because I consider you a very good girlfriend, even though we talk like twice a year, and that's just how this goes. But
Mhm.
you and I have come up in the platinum era of hip hop, during the platinum era of hip hop, and that would be the 90s on up to today in that various ways.
Yeah.
But the platinum era is the era that really made hip hop pop, and we were able to be considered, have our own categories and do our own thing. And you were an instrumental part of that. I would like to talk about first. Let me introduce your previous titles because today you are.
Showrunner for television, a television showrunner.
Yes. Andrena went from hip hop as a video director's representative and producer to one of the top dogs at in video production and music producing, managing. And can we talk about who and where you were? How did you get to that transition? First of all, where are you from? I know where you're from. Let the people know where you're from, what your background is, your educational background, and how you got into video production.
Okay, let's see. So I'm originally from Michigan. I'm originally from a town called Southfield, right outside of Detroit, Michigan. Um, and I made my way to New York in the late 80s. I would say it was like the best, which I'm aging myself now, but who cares? So it was like in 1988, I moved to New York to go to film school. So I went to School of Visual Arts.
Okay.
And then when I graduated in the early 90s, I wanted to get into film because my major and concentration in film school was screenwriting. So I thought I was going to like immediately go into film and, work on big film productions and be a writer and all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't really happen, especially if you have no experience. Like I did like internships and stuff like that while I was in college. But,
Right.
when you first get out of school, it's like hard. So a friend of the family who was in advertising and just knew a bunch of people in production said, to make some money, why don't you just be a PA on some music video sets? And I was just like, oh, okay, so that sounds like fun. So I was a PA. I was a PA on a Freddie Jackson video.
Oh my God. Wait, a PA is a production assistant.
Yes, a production assistant. So it's a production assistant is right above an intern because it was a paid position. I probably made $75 a day or something like that back then. Right. And it was this Freddie Jackson video where Freddie Jackson, I feel like he was like in a bathtub full of milk.
I think I remember that video.
So that was the first video that I did, and I was like super excited to do it because I was just like, oh, it's like filming and it's like, it's Freddie Jackson. So that was fun. And then I don't remember the second music video that I did as a production assistant, but I remembered the production company was a company called Riviera Films, and it was owned by a husband and wife team. And so they saw me on set because I was like at that super eager age where I was just like, oh, everything is great. And I was like, right. Just happy to be alive. So
happy to be alive.
Happy to be alive. So they asked me if I wanted to like work with them and get like a full-time job pretty much and be their production assistant in the office. And I said, yeah, because of course the goal at that point was to have a steady paycheck coming because I could barely pay my rent at all at that point. I was always calling home for money. So I worked with them, and then I did I worked with the directors. At that time, they had a woman. They had a woman named Juliet, another woman named Pam. I can't remember Pam's last name, but those were their two main directors, and they had Gus Van Sant. And that was like a really weird one because obviously he was like a big film director at that point, but he also wanted to do music videos.
So who Van Sant?
Gus Van Sant. He did Drugstore Cowboys. He did the movie Kids. He directed those movies. So I think that he had just come off of the movie Kids. And so a lot of people wanted him to do a lot of different creative things. So he was doing music videos. So that was one of the 3 directors that they had with the company. So I remember I did like I was a production assistant on one of their music videos. That was part of my like gig. And there was this woman, I will never forget her name. Her name is Lynn Spinato. And she was the music video commissioner for Atlantic Records. And so we were doing a music video for Atlantic Records and we were on set that day and she was just like watching me. She was like paying attention to me. And so she said to the owner of the company, Bob Jason, she said, Andrena has a lot of personality and she brings a lot of light to the set, but she's a horrible production assistant. Because I didn't know how to like wrap cables and stuff, but I would always get like the grips to like do stuff for me because I'd be like, oh, can you do that? You know what I mean? So the next day when we're in the office, Bob tells me this and I was like crushed. I was just like, I thought I was going to get fired. And he said, well, you want to be a music video director's rep? And I said, okay. And he goes, do you know what that is? And I said, no. And he just started laughing.
No, I don't.
But I'll do it. So Lynn Spinato from Atlantic Records had suggested you should like have her be a video director's rep because she has a lot of personality. She's a lot of fun. So I was at that time, I think I was only 21. And so I was the youngest music video director's rep at that time.
Wow. For Atlantic?
For just in general, because, you know, they had like a lot of different music video directors reps I'm trying to think of the woman's name. There was one woman, Karen Sadler. She was married to Eric Sadler from the Bomb Squad production team. She was the music video director's rep, but she was like older than me. I don't know how much older than me she was, but she was like married and she was like a grown up.
Right.
And there were other people too, but I was like the youngest because I was just like a kid. But I would go and I would sit. And I remember one of the first places I went, I would go to Tommy Boy Records and I kept hounding that person there. And I would sit for hours and hours in the lobby of Tommy Boy Records, waiting for them to take a meeting with me.
Okay, that is sheer determination. Now, when you were going to Tommy Boy Records, were you going as a rep and wanting to represent, wanting to get a production deal or a video production deal for your clients?
Yes, for my clients. I wanted my directors to be considered to direct music videos for their artists. So at that time, that was De La Soul, and because I was just all into hip hop, I didn't care about anything else.
Okay.
So it's like, you know, Queen Latifah.
So you created your own niche.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, that's all I wanted to do. And so they never gave me a music video, but Rod Houston, who was the music video commissioner for Tommy Boy, he sort of took me under his wing and tried to explain to me like how to like make things happen. So eventually, fast forward, Riviera Films got Fab Five Freddy as one of their music video directors. Okay. So I worked with him on the first couple of Nas, like we did The World Is Yours music video for Nas, and that was directed by Fab, and I was his director's rep. Okay. So then things started to take off from there, and then I went and started my own company and had that for a while and did like produce like Shook Ones Part 2 for Mobb Deep. We did The World Is Yours music video remix for Nas. We worked with OC. We did KRS-One, Keith Murray.
Okay. So you did a lot of Queens guys music video repping. Now, speaking of, you said Mobb Deep. Prodigy was such a great guy. Havoc used to be sort of my neighbor in Long Island. I was in Baldwin Harbor and he was nearby, and his neighbor would have me hanging out at his house, at Havoc's house with him. But Prodigy was such a good guy. What are your thoughts? Like, what was your experience working with them too?
I mean, I have to be like really honest. Like, we were all kids because they weren't too much younger than me, and we were just all kids. And for me, that music video, even though it's like such an iconic music video and an iconic song, it was an annoying music video to shoot.
Really?
We had like no money because back then they would give you like $5,000 or $10,000, and we were shooting on film. So it was
Oh,
different from today with like music, with video. You could do so much more with video, it's so much cheaper, but we were shooting on film. So we shot that on 16 millimeter film. And it was like us out in some like industrial place. It was raining. They showed up, they were kids. They showed up with like a gang of friends, all those people, all those boys you see in the background. It was just like, and it was like one of the first videos that we did, my partner and I at the time, that we did with our own production company. So all I was worried about is like, don't let them like knock over our lights. We don't have that much money.
Where you're gonna be paying money, you gotta return this shit, and you got it's attached to your credit card, personal credit card. Oh gosh.
Yes.
The
So I
life.
was, yeah, it was like the production life. So,
Yeah.
you know, you
Startup
don't,
life.
yeah, the startup life. So it wasn't like all like, oh, this artist is this and all starstruck and this, that. No, don't mess up my insurance.
Yes.
New company, please don't make me go bankrupt.
Exactly. I love that story. Wow. So that was interesting. So let's take a pause here and
Okay.
a little station break, and then we'll get back to the people with more Andrena Hale. Stand by. And we're back. I'm back with Andrena. She was just giving us some good scoop about her experience with Mobb Deep. They were kids. She wasn't feeling it. Don't mess up my insurance. I feel that. Like that startup life, it make you nervous. Like you really invest money and time, and you're just really focused on making sure things go right. I love how you started out, in school, someone gave you a heads up about a different route. You investigated it and got involved, and you got yourself a mentor, the gentleman that you named over at Atlantic. Is that correct?
The woman, Lynn Spinato.
Oh, Lynn, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she wasn't even a mentor. She was just like, what do you guys have her like? She's not a great production assistant.
Not that woman. The when you got in
from Tommy Boy, yeah.
Yeah. See that, I think that I think the lesson in that is pay attention to the people around you and who you meet, and because you never know what you can get out of it. Now let's talk about, we're going to get back to the fact that, you started your own company. I know that you've worked with various different recording producers.
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember when we met?
You know what? I remember, I feel like Scratch introduced us, right?
Okay, so DJ Scratch introduced us. I thought so too, because I was thinking, did Scratch introduce us? Because we always hung around, me, you, Scratch, and Rock. Like Rock somehow appeared, but you, me, and Scratch, the crazy 20-something, 30-something-year-old fun crew. I love that era. We had so much fun. What do you think about just sexism in the entertainment industry, in the music industry, in terms of the guys being glorified and getting the clients and getting the accolades versus the women? No one knows about the many women that run shit behind the scenes. Like they really think that it's like Chris Lighty, P. Diddy, Jay-Z, I could keep going, but they don't think about, and if they do think about a woman, in my opinion, it's someone who's worked with like Wendy, or like, someone who's, it wouldn't be a female of color.
No.
That would be the person that you would see in front of things. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I think that there are so many of us that just get overlooked. And I don't know if you know, my friend, so I have two really great friends like that we came up in music videos together. And one is Gingy Rochelle. She produces independent features now and
Okay.
movies of the week for like BET and TV One and networks like that, and Netflix streamers like that. And then my friend Susan Linz, who's a huge production designer who that's how I met her. Is like we hired her to do a lot of production design for our music videos, and then she's worked with Hype all these years,
Mm.
like done some of his biggest music videos. She's the one that really that showed Kanye about art, taught him about art and that kind of thing. So it's like the three of us always talk about how we don't really get like nobody like really talks about our contributions to hip hop, to the music business, because we're not at record labels, right? So a lot more women who were like A&R at record labels, like they probably get like more mention than those of us who came up in music videos, but we helped to create the look that came with hip hop. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we also say that's probably our own faults too, because we're not the type of people that are just like, look at me, look at me, look at what I did, look at what I did. Because we were so busy just handling our business and like doing the job that we didn't realize that we should have been probably giving ourselves like some props. Because if I look at like some of the directors that I've worked with and some of the music producers that I worked with, they rarely say anything about what I contributed. Now they do, because I've been vocal with them and being like, don't forget who put you on. Don't forget who was like grinding and got you on those albums. Don't forget who got you, wrote your music video treatments. So now when they do interviews, they will mention me just because I beefed with them. But
I love it. You let them know, girl. You gotta listen. A closed mouth can't get fed.
That's right. And at first it didn't bother me because I was like, oh, well, I'm not in music anymore, so it doesn't really matter. And I'm like, no, but I put in a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of resources.
And it translates to what you're doing today. I mean, you are still working with people in hip hop and other genres, but you are now behind the lens. How is that experience? Like, what made you? Because I've seen a transition in you. I mean, when I met you, I believe you were working with Bad Boy music producers, and we'll get to that. And then I remember you said, I want to be, a screenwriter. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know. So then you started doing these, I think there are plays. And I remember coming out and finally meeting your mom, because even though you have a brother, our brother Ramy, but your brother Ramy, I still kind of look at you like an only girl, or like me, an only child, but like you're the oldest girl. And your mom reminded me, her love and passion for you and what you're doing and supporting you always reminded me of my mom. So I was so happy to meet her at this event in the Lower East Side somewhere. I do remember that I couldn't find parking for it. And I was like driving around like crazy under the bridge, like through the loop, like projects everywhere. And then I found it, and it was like Chinatown meets LES.
Yeah.
You put on this production. Rock. People don't know the producer Rock was one of your investors, I believe.
Yeah.
Because you thanked him on stage.
Yeah, Eminem.
Eminem.
Yeah, Eminem, how did he get involved? He provided some like product, because I wanted to do like little swag bags or whatever, or it wasn't my idea. I forget whose idea it was to do it. And then I don't know, somehow Eminem like ended up, they were just like, this girl is originally from Detroit and she was in the music industry and now she's like writing, and somehow somebody hooked it up, and I don't remember who. But thank that person. And thanks Eminem, because he probably would not remember.
And what was the name of that play?
It was called With Certain Regrets.
With Certain Regret. And I was so proud of you. I enjoyed every moment. I don't remember nothing. So much things happened between now and then, but I remember being proud of you. And then the next thing I know, you were like, I don't know. I think you went into, maybe, I don't remember, but something happened where we both went back to home. I went to Pennsylvania. You went to Michigan. We were all restructuring because everything seemed to hit streaming and iTunes, and things were pay and money weren't the same, and it was a big transition. So then I woke up and you were like, yeah, I moved to LA and I'm working in production. And I'm like, yes, I remember you telling me I'm going to go to LA, and then you did it. Let's get into that. How did you transition? No, we're going to talk about Bad Boy last. How did you transition from the rep to the music producer's manager into television today? Like,
it definitely wasn't an easy transition. It was not a smooth one by any stretch of the imagination. When I left Bad Boy, I didn't want to be in the music business anymore. And I took on like maybe a couple of like music producer clients just to have some money coming in.
Okay.
But I didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, because basically management is like babysitting adult people.
Yes.
And I was a frustrated creative because I was like, I'm a creative person. Like, why am I like managing these grown boys who were all like great, and they're like all my brothers, you know what I mean? But It was exhausting, and it wasn't what I went to New York to do when I moved in 1988. So I just was like, that's when I was doing theater, because my cousin, who I call my uncle because he and my dad are from the same generation, but he's Woody King Jr. and he is a legend in Black theater. And so I went to work with him, and that's when I started getting back into my creative self. And that's when I wrote With Certain Regrets. And I did another play for the ensemble studio theater. And that's when I really got into like being creative again, and just like trying to like struggle and like figure it out. So I had like some really like rough years where I had like no money coming in, and I was just trying to like get on and write, and because I was like, I don't want to manage music producers, and I would do like a little bit, and I was just like not into it. Right. So then when my mom passed away in 2009, I went home to Michigan because it was a surprise, and it was like a big shock. And I didn't want to stay in New York because it just didn't feel like the right thing to do. So I moved home, and then I just took a year off from life and just like didn't really do much of anything. And then in 2010, there was this show called Hardcore Pawn on True TV. It was the first season, and they were coming to Detroit to shoot at this giant pawn shop in Detroit. And so they needed producers to go and vet people, because like the premise of the show where people came in, they were pawning items or buying things, and they wanted some characters. You know, you can't just like go in with a camera. Everybody thinks reality TV is just like put the camera on and let people act up. No, it's a process. So somebody who had been getting shows that came into Detroit was just like, I know this girl and she's a producer. And I wasn't a producer at that point. I mean, I had in my music video days, but it had been such a long time. But whatever he said, they were like, okay, we'll hire her. And so we got paid like no money to just go and like interview people and get them to like sign up and say they'd come to the pawn shop and be filmed. Okay. And you'd have to send in these descriptions. So we'd have to send the tape back, and we'd have to send these descriptions of the people that we interviewed. And at first I was trying to be really politically correct and write these really nice things. But then we had to churn them out so quick. I'd be like, she came in and she looked like a hot mess, and her weave was falling off the track, and her nails were fucked up. And I would write it just like that, and I would send it in. So when they came, and we were just supposed to do casting, and then that was it. But when the showrunner came to town, this guy named Marcus Fox, this Irish guy named Marcus Fox, who I love to this day, came to town, and he said, "Are you Andrena Hale?" And I said, yeah. And he was just like, "You're fucking hysterical." And I was like, "What did I do?" And he was like, whoops. For the cast had everybody back in LA just laughing hysterically. And he said, "Do you want to stay on the show and be a segment producer?" Well, yeah, I had no money. So yeah, I'll do it. And it sounds fun. And this is my first time in television. And that's how I got started. And I literally started out as a segment producer, and I was watching all these, we had all these monitors that followed all these cameras, because it was like a multi-camera show. Because I felt like we had like 6 or 7 or 8 cameras or whatever. And it might not have been that much, but it felt like that. And I had to write like time codes, like what was happening on each camera. So when post got everything, the post-production department who edited the show, when they got it all back, they knew what was on each camera, and I would highlight what the funniest stuff was and what the best stuff was.
Nice.
And it sort of took off from there. I did 3 seasons of that, and then did another pawn show in Chicago, and just
and then it just took off. You kept getting called to do more work. How did you find out how to be a segment producer? Did you Google it? Did you make a phone call? Like,
no,
you had never done that.
No, they just told me what to do, and I did it. And then really, like, after the first month or so, Marcus said to me, he was just like, you're going to do really well, and you're going to excel really quickly because your instincts are really good. And I was like, that's because I'm not a kid. I'm 41 years old. Like, I'm starting at the very bottom,
right,
making $500 a week at 41 years old. Like,
right.
That's why my learning curve is so
right. You're getting a raw me.
Exactly.
And nothing but.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that is hilarious. I've got some notes here.
Okay.
Ooh.